Hey everybody, this is the Slightest Review. I'm here today to talk to you about Nancy Drew Season 2. Quite frankly, I don't get this season at all. It feels so different from Season 1. Not too different, but it's different. Let's just put it like that. I don't know what direction they're going into in this season, mainly because there really isn't a direction. There's no real huge focus like there was in season 1. In season 1, there was, these two murder mysteries that she was trying to solve, the Drew crew. And so one murder mystery led to another one that happened 20 years ago. And so it's kind of like, okay, that was the whole drive main plot of the first season. This huge story arc of who killed Lucy Sable 20 years ago and stuff. And every episode, were related to that overall huge mystery and stuff. Nothing really felt too out of place. Nothing was crammed in there for the sake of cramming it. It had a really nice flow to it and stuff. And because of that, there really wasn't no episodic episodes. It was just, a huge story arc, which is something a lot of shows are doing nowadays. However, coming into season 2 is different. Now, that whole story arc formula thing is gone. Like, there is no, main huge mystery to solve. In the first 2 episodes, they were trying to beat the Clayca type thing. But then they do that all of them, probably say 2 or 3 episodes. After that, everything is completely episodic, which is so strange and bizarre because normally a show will start off episodic. And then when it's a couple of seasons into the series, then they start doing story arcs because, the audience is going to get bored of single storyline episodes. Normally that's how it goes. It doesn't do it in reverse. It doesn't do the whole story arc thing first and then do the episodic thing. Now I kind of do wish they would have went the episodic route in season 1 because I wanted to get to know these characters a whole lot better than what I was just told. I wanted to see why Nancy was the greatest detective in the entire series. I wanted to see, what led to this and to that. Just this is and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And they never really did that. It was just a whole story arc type thing where they told us things about their past. So now going into this season, everything's episodic, and it's just a problem I'm having with it is just every week is a different plot. Nothing's tying into anything because there is no story arc. And so it's kind of frustrating because, we're now used to the type of storytelling in Hollywood where something is supposed to lead to something much bigger. And, the show's already been renewed for a 3rd season. And they even having a spin-off show where a character hasn't even been seen in the show yet. We're still having some interesting moments with our characters, but they're pretty much still the same exact way they were in season 1. Nothing has really changed for these people. There is no real true character development with none of these characters. Nancy is still Nancy. She's still slightly dull, slightly boring. Her and Nick are still not together. There's still no conflict between her, George, and Nick. She's now seeing another guy. Ace is still extremely dull and extremely boring. They've tried to make his character a little bit more interesting by getting him a new girlfriend who showed up all about 2 episodes. And then they gave him a half brother he knew nothing about who showed up for all of 2 episodes. And I'll get into that a little bit more later. George is still having to raise her sisters, so nothing's changed there. Her and Nick are still going strong. Nick is now co-owner of the Claw. He quit his automobile shop thing. Like I said, their relationship is still stronger than ever, and we're seeing them like love each other a whole lot more. So that's kind of cool. Bess, Lord have mercy, what the world did they do to Bess this season? Like, her and her girlfriend broke up. I'll get into that a bit more later, and they give her a new love interest that makes absolutely no sense. And now, because of that, this show has gotten stupid. It's not as bad as Riverdale, but it's getting there. So just like from last season, it starts where last season dropped off, with them trying to beat the Ecleka. Okay, they're all trying to live. The Ecleka showing them visions about how they would die, so now they're trying to prevent all that. Through some like goopy goop and some like artifacts and magical this and that, they are able to defeat the curse. Except for one. One actually does die. George. But she gets revived, I believe, in the same episode. Yeah, like they kill her, and then a few minutes later, they're able to bring her back. I forget how. And so what was the point in that? What was the point in killing her off? If they weren't even going to keep her dead, you know, they could have brought her back as a spirit and then revived her body like a couple episodes later, but they don't. They revived her in the same episode. God, I was hoping it was Ace. I was so hoping they would kill Ace. I'm like, please, please, kill him off, but they didn't. And so, since they killed her off and brought her back in the same episode, it was pointless. That whole death was pointless. There was no consequences to her dying. There was no like fallout other than Nick like being hysterical over it, you know? And so it was just there to just grab like attention and like to make people come back the next season. Now, when it also comes to George, something I didn't mention is that after she was brought back from the dead, the Ecleka decides to inhabit her body. But the Ecleka has now been healed. It's no longer monstrous because they solved that. It turns out the Ecleka was a woman by the name of Odette. And so she's a French lady. Odette had an affair with a governess. So that's everybody's having an affair. So Odette fell in love with her. The governor dude found out, had Odette in prison. She wrote like all these love letters and all this stuff like that. And then she died, and so she's been wallowing ever since then, became the Ecleka. And so now Odette is inside of George's body, and it's still there to this day. This season actually is not over yet. There's only a few more left until the end of May. And so Odette's just there, and it's kind of like, I assumed that, you know, Odette was going to be like this big baddie. She was going to do like all this villainous type stuff, and she kind of did a little bit, you know, in the first episode or so, when she was inside her body. But then after that, she just totally cool. She mellows out. She helps the team out. And then all of a sudden, she falls in love with Bess. And this is where it starts to get stupid. The writers, okay, this is what happened. When the Ecleka was cursing the kids and all the adults, I should say, or the Drew crew, and wanted to kill them and everything, they had to pretty much, you know, say their goodbyes to whoever they want to say them to, and, you know, get their house in order type thing, you know. And Bess, she was upset. She did not want to hurt Lizbeth. She did not want Lizbeth to know that she's cursed, she's about to die, and all this other stuff. And so she decides she's just going to break up with Lizbeth, but just not let her know. Just pretty much just distance herself and just forget about her. So Lizbeth is starting to fall more in love with her. She wants Bess to meet her mother and everything. And so Bess just stands her up. And that's that. After that, relationship is over with. We don't see Lizbeth no more. And now they decided to make it to where Odette, the ghost, the French ghost that's inside of George's body, is falling in love with Bess. What makes it worse is Bess is starting to fall back. And I'm just like, Bess, do you not remember that Odette is in the body of one of your closest friends? George, and George is dating Nick, and Nick is also one of your closest friends. So when those two try to like have like a romantic thing, I forget what happened, but something happened because I missed that episode. Actually, I think, and so then the thing is, because when Odette takes over George's body, she doesn't know what she's doing. And so they have to remind her after she snaps back, what happened. And so Bess tells her, she's all like, we cannot tell Nick. We cannot tell Nick. And so I'm like, I hope Nick does find out so there can be some fallout or something. But yeah, that is what the writers have came up for Bess. To have her fall in love with a ghost. Like, what is this? Ace, they are trying so hard to make him interesting. First, they have him hang out with Carson, which is just weird. A 20-year-old hanging out with a 40-year-old. And he's the one who helped the two dads bond together. And it's like, why? So then they give him a girlfriend. And nothing really like comes of that. Like, she's there. And her twin brother is dating Nancy. So that's kind of awkward, but that's like nothing. And then they give him a brother, Grant. Turns out that Ace's dad cheated on his mom and had Grant. And so Grant knew of, Ace and everything. He sought him out. And so it's kind of like, but he doesn't want, like, his dad to know who he is. But I think eventually Ace does tell him because something happened when they was like loading boxes in the garage. I think something fell on him and they decided to tell him or something like that. And so it's kind of like the dad's upset and everything, but there's nothing that came from that because all it happened was up 2 episodes and like that's it. And then the brother just completely pops out of the show. Laura is completely written out of the show. After the end of the first season, her sister's murder was resolved. She decides to go to Paris. Really? That's how they had to get rid of her, taking her all the way to Paris? It's funny. After I recorded the audio for this, I actually went to Instagram and messaged Stevie, asking her, or actually telling her that, I'm really surprised that, like, her character didn't last that long on the show. Because I thought for sure she would last, like, a lot longer than that. Now, she didn't reply, but she did like my comment. So I'm guessing she agrees. We see Nick, his mom comes in one episode. It's the lady from season 1 of The Walking Dead. And so she's there and she's upset that he's there in the town where people don't like him and he wants to take because of George. And she doesn't really like George because, she doesn't know George. And so it's just him and his mother, and like there's more fallout from that than there is from him, Nancy, and George. One thing they do interesting with Beth this season is that the dude that she used to be like partners in crime with back in England, when he comes to America, he pretty much blackmails her. He kidnaps George and Nancy, and he said he's gonna kill him unless Bess gives him one of her great aunts like jewelry that's like worth like a lot of money. So Bess does that. But the thing has like a little tracking unit in it. And so when she does that, she, her and Ace and Nick, they pretty much like, get the upper hand on Bess's ex and stuff. But then it turns out that the great aunt knew about the tracking device and she wished that Bess would have just came to her and asked for it instead of just like stealing it. So because of that, now her great aunt has like shunned her from like the family. And it's like, so that's like nice little character development. But the problem is after that, it doesn't go nowhere. Like we don't see the great aunt after that. We don't see Bess like upset about that anymore. And it's just like, it's just a one deal like done type thing. And so, like I said before, there's like a different ghost monster every episode, every week. So it's kind of like, and of course everything's solved in that one episode. So we're getting to know like all these new ghosts, but they don't have no substance to them because there's no like, because we don't know who none of these new people are they keep bringing into the show and stuff. And they still try to do the whole jump scares thing. It's still not working on me. It's almost like this show has turned into Scooby-Doo. And I kid you not. because with the whole ghostly monster thing every week. And now, not only that, but people around town seem to be okay with ghost people now. They seem to know the existence of ghost people. How? This didn't happen before in season one. In season one, people was oblivious to all this stuff. But now everybody's knowing all these ghost secrets. They're like these secret rituals. They're like these talisman type things, and it's just like it makes literal no sense. It feels so disconnected from the first season. Even Nancy doesn't even do her internal monologue thing no more, and it's just like, why the departure? It's kind of like, oh, okay, well, we got away with the paranormal stuff in season one, so since everybody's okay with it, well, then they must like it, so we'll bring more of it into like season two, and it just makes it feel so weird and different. And it kind of reminds me of what they did with another show, Rain. With Rain, there was always this strange stuff happening, and the viewer didn't know if it was paranormal type stuff or not. But it turned out it wasn't. It turned out it was just like people back in the old days trying to like scare people and stuff, you know? And they made everything happen. But then in the last season, they decided, what the heck, we're getting canceled anyway. So then they brought in the paranormal stuff for real. Well, witches and spells and all this other stuff. And it was just like, that was a huge departure. And so I'm not feeling this season like at all. I don't get the point. It would be nice if they had an overall like story arc. It would be nice if they didn't have like a ghost monster of the week, you know? It would be nice if they had some character development and stuff. And there's none of that stuff. It's just a bunch of boring, lame, stupid stuff. And it's just like, it's turning into Riverdale. And I'm hoping to God third season gets better, because if not, I'm about to say goodbye to this show, just like I did Riverdale. And the show is turning very Scooby-Doobish, you know? And it's just like, why? I don't get that. Like, I just don't. And it's like, even when they try to have a solid episode, like an actual detective episode, they can't help but to add a ghost into it. Like last week. Last week episode dealt with, it was Nancy's birthday or something like that. And I forget why, but she had to go down to the police station. I think she got arrested for like the 100th time or something like that. And so, while she's there, there's a bunch of other people there. And the next thing you know, the entire precinct gets like overrun by some mysterious person. And so this person wants Nancy to solve the murder of this woman, because she doesn't know who killed her, but she wants this woman avenged. And she knows that all the people that she has trapped in the building, one of them is the suspect. Oh, and Nancy's dad just happens to be there because he's walking with her and stuff. The biological one. And so this episode felt a lot like a movie I once saw in college. It's called Nine Dead, and it stars Melissa Joan Hart, and I think it was also produced by her too. And a lot of people have never heard of this movie. She tried her best to put the word out, but she had to do it on social media. I guess like people just weren't interested in this movie because Saw was just a big thing at that time, and so there was no good advertisement for it from the studio. But it was actually a pretty good movie. I actually enjoyed it. She said it's kind of like the Saw movies. Not really. Kinda like the first one a little bit. Like, you know, there's two dudes trapped in the room, and there's a killer, and they want to know who did this so that person can die. And so that's kind of how this movie is. Well, all these people are trapped, but it's also this movie is also really based off this British movie that I also saw. I forgot the name of that, but yeah. So it's like Nine Dead, because in the Nine Dead, you know, there's a bunch of people. They're in a room. There's a person who's, I'm gonna kill y'all if y'all don't figure out who did it, and one by one each hour somebody's gonna die. So that's kind of how this episode is. And so, you know, Nancy is interrogating everybody, trying to figure out who all let this lady down or killed her, stuff like that. And then that's part A, the subplot. Subplot B involves Bess, George, and Ace. And for some whatever reason, George wants to talk to her dead grandma. So she brings her back, and so she possesses the body of Ace, and it actually makes him a little bit more interesting. But he still is acting that same dull, kind of boring way. But and they don't have his voice doing it. They have like an actual woman, and he's just mimicking her mouth movements and stuff. So he's lip syncing to it. So that's part B. And I'm just like, you had a good premise for part A. What is the point in part B? Why did you have to add a ghost element to it? But they just can't help themselves at all. They really can't. They have to throw in a stinking ghost. They think that's gonna save the show. And it's just like, have you never seen Person of Interest? You don't need ghosts, okay? Long story short, turns out that everybody in that room had something to do with upsetting that lady. They let her down, but one person actually killed her, but he didn't try to kill her, but he still ended up killing her. A cop did. And then another cop, when they saw her bleeding and stuff, they didn't do nothing to help. So both cops get in trouble. And so Nancy has solved the day. Everybody gets to leave, but then and then she hears bells ringing in the background as the person's talking to her. And Nancy remembers those bells. It's church bells. Because Nancy's so great at what she does, but we don't really get to see her being great at what she does. But we kind of do a little bit in this episode. I kind of skipped this episode a little bit, so I was kind of phasing in and out. But anyways, so she goes to church and she tells like the pastor lady of all people, hey, I know that was you that was on the intercom trying to kill us all and stuff. So she gets in trouble, she gets arrested, and yay, they eat birthday cake. It's just like, why? Why did you add a ghost to this? Why didn't you just make the whole episode about like the pastor lady trying to kill people because she's trying to figure out, this woman dying? And why did the pastor lady like this lady so much, But they just couldn't help themselves. Because they have to add a ghost to every episode. Because they want to be like Scooby-Doo. If you want to be like Scooby-Doo, just make a Scooby-Doo show. Oh, correction. It appears that Tom Swift, the spinoff, the dude is going to appear in Nancy Drew. He's going to appear in tonight's episode. Huh. Oh, look. LeVar Burton's going to be voicing his AI system. Cool. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.